Hey everyone, and welcome back to today's Explainer. I am so glad you're here with us. Today we're looking at a really fascinating, complex, and ultimately sobering sequence of events. We're going to seamlessly connect the dots between international geopolitical tensions, the very real economic realities that everyday citizens are facing right now, and finally, a devastating local update that really puts human fragility into perspective. As focused learners, you know that understanding the big picture means we have to look at both the macro and the micro. And well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. So let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, US-Iran war prep. Then, the Dark Eagle threat. Third, the inflation strike on India. And lastly, the Bargi Dam cruise tragedy.
Starting off with Chapter 1, US-Iran war prep. Right now we're looking at a highly escalating deadlock between the US and Iran. Diplomatic talks are completely frozen, and honestly, nobody knows if or when they'll resume. According to reports from the US news website Axios, the United States Central Command, or CENTCOM, has actually presented President Trump with 3 highly actionable military plans. Let's walk through the sheer severity of these 3 options. Step 1, a direct attack on Iran's civilian infrastructure. Essentially, the goal here would be to cripple the country's daily operations. Step 2 involves seizing a portion of the highly contested Strait of Hormuz to forcefully reopen it for commercial shipping. And as you might guess, that action would almost certainly require direct US military combat involvement. And Step 3, launching a special forces ground operation straight into Iran to secure their enriched uranium stockpiles. So the takeaway here is that CENTCOM clearly views targeting the nuclear program as addressing the absolute core issue of this entire conflict.
But, here's the political catch. It's been over 60 days since the initial hostilities kicked off, and under a 1973 U.S. law, a president absolutely has to get congressional approval within 60 days of initiating a conflict. Well, that deadline is expiring today, and this just brilliantly illustrates the kind of political maneuvering happening behind closed doors. The administration is essentially shifting its vocabulary by calling the actions in Iran a special military operation designed to force a deal. Instead of calling it a war, they're attempting to completely bypass the hassle of getting that required congressional approval.
Moving on to Chapter 2, the Dark Eagle threat. 6,000 kilometers per hour. Seriously, let that sink in. That is the staggering speed of the Dark Eagle long-range hypersonic missile system. If a military operation goes forward, the US military isn't just relying on their standard equipment. They've specifically requested the deployment of this incredibly advanced weaponry to the Gulf to counter the highly sophisticated air defense systems from Russia and China. This thing travels at Mach 5, literally 5 times the speed of sound. At that velocity, the Dark Eagle is designed to strike before the enemy even realizes what's happening. This system has a massive range of nearly 3,000 kilometers, and it's perfectly tailored to take out deep underground facilities and mobile ballistic missile launchers. But the real game changer here? It's the unpredictable mid-air glide maneuvering. It uses a glide body that can actually change direction unpredictably right in the middle of its flight. Because of that erratic path, combined with its blistering speed, enemy radar systems simply won't be able to detect or track the incoming strike. Make no mistake, it is a clear ultimatum to Iran. Make a deal or face a weapon you literally cannot stop.
Which brings us to Chapter 3, inflation strike on India.
Because the Strait of Hormuz remains totally deadlocked, commercial shipping is stalled out, and we are witnessing a massive global energy crisis. And these distant geopolitical maneuvers, they are actively striking the wallets of everyday citizens back in India. The price for a barrel of Brent crude oil just rocketed up to $126 for June deliveries. That is a massive 7% spike. In fact, to put that into perspective, this is the highest price surge we've seen since the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war back in 2022. Think about how this directly hits the oil companies. They have to purchase raw crude at these astronomically high global prices, but then they have to sell it in local markets, which creates these massive financial deficits.
To manage those massive global losses, the Indian government has had to perform a really delicate balancing act. On one hand, they protected everyday consumers. Petrol has remained completely unchanged at 94.72 rupees in Delhi. Diesel, domestic LPG cylinders, and even domestic aviation turbine fuel prices were frozen, specifically to shield the common man. But to offset those exact losses, commercial gas prices took a massive hit. The 19-kilo commercial LPG cylinder shot up by an astonishing 993 rupees in a single day, and the 5-kilo cylinder jumped by over 261 rupees.
Addressing this, the government maintains that these hikes are just an unavoidable consequence of global energy shocks. Union Minister Chirag Paswan put it like this, saying, "These challenges, if they persist, can certainly increase problems for everyone due to the ongoing global crisis." The government's stance is pretty clear here. They aren't hiding from the global crisis, and they fully acknowledge that if the international situation doesn't stabilize soon, these difficulties will inevitably trickle down. On the flip side, the political opposition views this as a direct blow to the working class. Summarizing their perspective, leader Rahul Gandhi took to social media, pointing out that an 81% increase in commercial gas prices over just 3 months is going to burden every tea stall, bakery, and hotel, which ultimately raises the price of a standard thali or food plate. Leaders like Akhilesh Yadav and Udit Raj have echoed this exact sentiment. They're arguing that the working class is bearing the brunt here, and they frame this sudden price hike on Labor Day as a severe blow to workers and small business owners. And the economic ripple might not end with just commercial gas. Government sources have quietly acknowledged that if the crude oil market doesn't stabilize, petrol and diesel price hikes might be absolutely inevitable. You see, the current freeze on consumer fuel prices is creating really heavy deficits for those oil companies. If the US-Iran deadlock continues to squeeze the global market, everyday commuters might be the next ones to feel the financial impact.
Finally, Chapter 4, the Bargi Dam Cruise Tragedy. Shifting gears entirely away from international politics and global economics, we are focusing now on a really devastating local tragedy that occurred in Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh. And it's a sobering reminder of just how unpredictable life can be. Families and tourists, mostly women and children who were just out enjoying their summer holidays, boarded a local cruise at the Bargi Dam. There were 43 people on board. Out of nowhere, the cruise hit very deep waters right as bad weather and high winds struck the area. The conditions were so severe that they caused the cruise to capsize completely. While a few passengers who were strong swimmers managed to frantically swim to safety and even tried to save others, the high winds made the rescue operations incredibly difficult. Tragically, 24 hours after the incident, 9 bodies had been recovered and 4 individuals were still missing. It's just a horrific event where a simple family outing turned into an absolute nightmare in a matter of seconds.
From the high-stakes threat of hypersonic missiles out in the Gulf to the sudden jarring surge in the cost of a commercial gas cylinder right in our own neighborhoods, all the way down to a tragic accident on a summer cruise. Today's explainer really highlights how quickly things can escalate. As global shockwaves dictate our economy and local tragedies test our safety, it leaves us with one vital question to reflect on. Are we truly prepared for the unpredictable? Thank you so much for learning with me today. Keep your eyes open, stay focused, and I will see you in the next explainer.